right. Welcome back finally to another episode of Street PX. I know we kind of fell off the end of the earth there on everybody. We apologize.
Yeah, like we said, life happens, man.
Life does happen.
We got to make money.
Yep. It's one of those things. Like, I mean, I will say we love everybody out there, all of our listeners, for being a big part of the Street PX nation community here, and for following along with us. But every once in a while, real life, this is a passion project. It has to be
That's right.
kind of reminded, and real life took over. It's got to be a priority sometimes. And this is a hard season, to be honest.
That's right. It is. Lots of stuff going on, especially for me. You know, I'm doing a lot of events. Haven't done much street photography lately over maybe the last year.
Wow.
You know, I'm trying to catch up with things, you know, but man, still street photography. That's my thing, man.
There you go.
Once in a while, I'll squeeze it in between events.
Well, it is. I will say it's December 4th, and we have a great episode. I know it's going to be kind of weird for everybody out there because we had Chris Suspect in at the beginning of this fourth season here, and we went on we fell off the earth, of course, and then now we're back, and we got Chris again. But the timing couldn't be more perfect because he is here to talk about the very book that he teased us about in the last episode. And we're going to be kind of unpacking and getting some of the stories behind the imagery on his book. It's called Faith, published by, what is this? Photo Evidence.
Yeah.
Yep. And the book is now available for pre-order. That's at photoevidence.com. And it's going to be releasing spring 2019. So
that's right.
That's what this episode's completely about, and we're just gonna throw out some quick plugs and jump right on into this one. Jim, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to bring up, so go for it, my friend.
A couple of things for you photographers out there. If you're in San Francisco, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art has an exhibit with Brasai, the famous street photographer. He has some great work at the San Francisco MoMA up until February 18th of next year. So definitely check it out if you're in San Francisco. The other thing, at the Howard Greenberg Gallery in New York City, there is Vivian Maier, The Color Work. And that has got to be something that needs to be seen if you're in New York City. That's going to be running through January 5th of next year, and it's at the Howard Greenberg Gallery, 41 East 57th Street, Suite 1406. I'm actually going to be checking that out later on this year, so I can't wait to see it.
Oh, yes. And we'll add that information into the show notes, of course, for this episode, which can be found at streetpx.com. So head on over there. You can find out more about our show, you can find links to all of our previous episodes, or if you like listening on your cell phone or on your computer, you can always find us on iTunes or on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those wonderful places out there. So definitely share us around. That's a big thing. You know, we don't ask that enough.
There you go.
A nice social share of any of the episodes that you enjoy. We enjoy you doing that.
Yeah, it goes a long way. It really does.
It does. Now, for the most important part is the episode, our talk with Chris Suspect. So let's go ahead and jump right on in.
One thing. Do you want to admit? Our sponsor,
Glass Key Photo. See what happens whenever we're gone for a while? Yes.
There you go.
We want to throw some big old love to our sponsor, Glass Key Photo. That is San Francisco's one-stop shop for all things analog photography. So if you're looking for camera repairs, you're looking for an old camera, you're looking to get back into analog or continue it, this is a place to be. They are located at 1230 Sutter Street, right in the heart of San Francisco, open 7 days a week from 12 to 6, and ran by two of the coolest guys that we know, Gordon and Matt. So big love to those boys over there, and if you are in town or live in town, go check them out and buy some film, buy some prints, or maybe a zine from a local photographer here in town.
Excellent. Excellent.
That sounded pretty good, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Right on. Cool. Okay, so let's jump right into this talk with Chris Suspect on his book, Faith. Cool, man. Just as an aside, I got to looking through kind of some more details on this book. This thing looks fascinating as hell.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can't wait to get my copy.
Can we start with that? Are we gonna start the show talking about the book?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all about the book on this one. This is a giant shameless plug.
All right. Cool. I was hoping to say it because I did want to talk about that.
Pre-orders are available now.
There you go. Title of this episode will be "Buy This Damn Book." All right, folks, we're back with Chris Suspect. Definitely starting to put on some hours at Street PX.
Yeah, right.
But we welcome him back pretty quick to talk about this awesome book.
Yeah, welcome back, man.
Thanks, Casper and Jim, and I appreciate you having me back since I was just on fairly recently, so that's very generous of you guys, so thank you.
Well, just showing respect, man.
Yeah, we have no limitations on how often you can come on. It's just as long as it's not like for weeks on end.
All right, well, I'll see you next week. I'll be your third wheel.
There you go.
Well, I mean, without further ado, let's just jump into the whole point of this. We want to talk about your upcoming book, Faith. I know me and Jim have done a little bit of research on it, but I'm going to avoid us talking about it. This is your baby, and I want you to tell the people about it. So kind of give us a little bit of a little summary of what the book is, and then we're going to just kind of unpack that a little bit.
Sure. So Faith is a long-term project I started in about 2013 and shot heavily for about a year, and then spent about a year sequencing and then a couple years shopping it around, if you will, to select publishers. The story of the book is basically about this empowered gay African-American community here in Washington, D.C. And it's kind of a look about their them as individuals, them in relationships, and them as kind of in their social lives, and also them in their church.
Wait, it sounds to me like you're really trying to get the full story.
Well, I wanted a 360 degree kind of view of this. So it's probably best I just kind of start at the beginning. So in 2013, I went to go photograph in Georgetown here in Washington, D.C., and I saw this guy get hit by a car. And it was a very minor accident, basically kind of ran over his toe. This taxi ran over his toe. But I shot the accident scene because the guy who got hit was making a scene and sitting on top of the taxi and saying, you're not leaving until I get your, until the police come here and all this and that. And so it was sort of interesting seeing this guy in the middle of the street sitting on top of a taxi, not allowing the taxi to move. And I photographed the whole scene. And then afterwards, he asked me if he could have the photos for his lawyer. And I was like, sure, man, no problem. So I sent him the photos that I took. And then didn't really hear much. And then like 3 months later, he emailed me and said, hey, I've been checking out your photos. I'm hosting a party. Would you be willing to come and shoot it? I'd be happy to pay you. And I was like, sure. Like how much? He's like, how much do you want? And I was like, oh, like $600 would be great. And yeah, he's like, all right, gave me the details. It was in this Moroccan restaurant in DuPont Circle. And I had no idea what to expect. And so I just showed up, and it turned out to be a big kind of underwear party. Where everybody wore masks, and
oh my god,
it was a little had this kind of Eyes Wide Shut vibe.
Oh wow!
Everybody was black, and everybody was younger than me. They're all very very attractive black gentlemen. Most of them in underwear, wearing masks. A lot of them wearing masks.
Were you in underwear and mask?
No, I'm not. At that time, I didn't come prepared to kind of fit in. I had no idea. So I really had I was total fish out of water. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot this kind of like I would like a punk rock show. And was just kind of, aggressive with off-camera flash and, just trying to capture moments, if you will.
Yeah.
And And so after the party, I sent my photos to Bilal. That was the guy's name, and I guess he sent them around to his buddies, and they all loved them. And they were like, "Man, these are great." And so then I started getting invited to other parties to shoot them, and then also got invited into several of their houses. They wanted me to do shots of them with their partners and whatnot. And so that's kind of how it started. And then after, a couple months of doing that and like just looking through all the photos, I noticed a lot of these guys had these, a lot of them were tattooed, and a lot of the tattoos were like religious tattoos. And I was kind of curious. So I asked Bilal, I was like, what's going on with all these like religious tattoos? I mean, everyone's got like truly blessed or faith or God's miracle or the rosary or whatever it is tattooed on them. And they're like, oh, well, a lot of us belong to this church in D.C. And I was like, oh, man, you got to take me to your church. And he's like, well, I don't go there because I'm Muslim, but let me introduce you to a guy named Terrence. And so he connected me with this guy, Terrence, and Terrence brought me into the church, and I met the pastor, and I had nothing to show him but those party kind of photos and some of the house photos. And he was like, he absolutely loved it. And he says, I love this. This is like from sin to salvation. He's like, you're welcome to come shoot in the church. And then the next service where I went to with my camera, he made an announcement. He's like, Chris Suspect is here to document our service. If you don't want to be in any photos, please, sit in the back. Otherwise, we're just going to let him do his thing. And then I basically shot the church like almost every Sunday for a year.
Huh?
Oh, wow!
And then going into the parties and the events and all of this, and it was really sort of interesting. And along the way, I mean, the biggest like lesson or the biggest thing I learned from all this. Well, first off, I was really I knew from the moment of that first party, I've like entered like kind of a world where most people don't get to see. And and then same with the church. But and I've always been gay positive, if you will. But I always assumed that, under the rainbow flag that, everything was equal and everything was hunky dory, especially at that time because, gay marriage was getting more and more legalized in various states. And I think in 2015 it was approved by the Supreme Court. But what I didn't realize is that there was a lot of discrimination within the gay community against Black gays. And I saw it firsthand because I used to go, to some nightclubs with these guys, and there'd be instances where some of them wouldn't be allowed in because of some kind of bogus dress code, or we'd be at the bar and I'd order a drink, they'd order a drink, and then they were charged more than I was.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. And then also within the African American community, outside of the gay community, there's a lot of homophobia. So there was like several parties that were, threatened to be shut down by, violence, all kinds of stuff. And so what these guys had done is basically just created their own network, and it's actually quite large. But at the time, it's much larger now that when I started. But when I started, what they would do is some of the folks that threw parties, they'd rent out either clubs or restaurants or just have like kind of house parties. But you got on a text message like alert system. So so if you were cool, they would send you a text message letting you know when the next party was. And I'm still getting these text messages now. And these parties, like, I guess they started in D.C. to the best of my knowledge. And then I guess I got on some list because now I get announcements about parties in Atlanta, announcements about parties in New York City. But anyway, it's kind of this whole kind of like underground thing. And it's mostly 99.9% of the people that go to these things are African American. And it's a way for them just kind of to be themselves and have, live their own social lives without the crap, I guess, that they have to deal with in some of the white gay clubs.
Right, right.
So that was really like eye opening to me. And then also, within the Baptist, African American Baptist Church, homophobia is rife, and it's, they're discriminated against there. So, some of these folks, because they grew up with it and faith was a big part of their life, they just created their own church in D.C. and it was kind of like this nondescript sort of church, but like everybody is welcome at the church, but primarily everybody there is gay or lesbian or transgender. So it was like, it's just really kind of interesting, to see like out of this discrimination, these folks became very empowered and created their own like communities that are fantastic. It was really kind of really inspiring to see what they've done. And I thought it was important to document this. And I also felt very fortunate that they just let me into their world.
It's impressive how well enveloped that you got into that. That it sounds like from their reactions to your pictures and the first gentleman, Bilal, that you had spoken with, did you find that most everybody was welcoming to you coming into the community and documenting this?
Actually, yes, because I was fortunate enough to, Bilal was like I would say was like a scene maker because he would throw parties and he was well known.
Yeah. And
then Terrence is another guy that is also well known in the scene. And he, not only is he an active member of that church, he's also very social and goes to these party things all the time. But he also does this nonprofit thing called Impulse Group, which raises awareness about AIDS and the African American community. So he does a lot of great stuff for that community. So he's well respected. So by me being associated with him and also with the Reverend Aaron Wade Jones from the church, that a lot of people just I didn't really get any the only thing I ever got was like, hey, I don't want to be included in this. If please don't take my picture or use my picture, and which I respect.
Right.
But that was few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys were really, a lot of them were really like exhibitionists. They'd love to be photographed. So that was, it was great.
I had a feeling it would be like you'd have more problem trying to clear the scene for individuals to be seen because everybody I felt would be wanting to be in front of that camera.
So yeah, I mean
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was really quite interesting, and and also I mean all of these folks were extremely nice. Never once did I feel threatened. Never once did I ever get, kind of propositioned or hit on.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was always welcome. I was invited to everything from like church bake sales to, more low key parties or whatever, or let's go out and get a drink kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was really nice. I consider a lot of these folks, especially, Terrence and Bilal, like, good friends.
Did Bilal ever talk to you about his experience with Muslim institutions as a gay person?
Not so much. He talked to me about his relationship with his dad, but not really in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So but Bilal did help open my eyes a lot about what gay African Americans feel. One of the very interesting things that he brought to my attention is that a lot of folks in this community feel like they have no representation on the national level in terms of gay rights. And if you look at it, most people involved in gay rights are white, men or women. There's really no Black national leader in that area, and they hoped that folks like Obama or Oprah would be willing to speak up for their community on a larger level, but they never have. To the point they use the term like Obama and Oprah have been whitewashed. So while they're happy to, express support for the gay community in general, they are reluctant to express any kind of support for the gay African American community.
That I'm glad you brought that up, because as far as the LGBT community, or even taking in consideration the Me Too movement that recently come out, the African American representation in any of these things is always so low compared to the percentage of being affected. And I mean, and you think in a world like today with, people like Don Lemon, Christopher Blow, Laverne Cox, like all these names, that there would be a lot louder on the mainstream circuit, but it's always not silenced, it's just muffled.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you look at also just the attitude of parents who have people whose children are gay, right? So you'll have, like, on all these talk shows, there's always like the white mom or white dad supporting their gay son or daughter. You rarely ever see an African American parent doing that. They may accept their homosexuality. For example, I know Terrence's parents are fully supportive of what he does, but there's many, many, many more where it's just like they don't acknowledge, they sweep it under a rug. It's not accepted. Just, very similar, and it probably, I'm no expert, but, a lot of it probably goes back to kind of like, the church.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, because, I grew up in a church, and excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather, Chris. but I'm sure the church has a lot to do with it, just like you said, Chris, because it's hard for African Americans to come out as a gay person. I mean, they do it now, it's more accepted. In the church, maybe not so much, and a lot of people's family life, basically the institution of the church is dominant. So yes, that could be suppressing it. I think, though, and hopefully that will change, because it's more so in the older generations than in the younger generations. It's a little different. It hasn't gotten there, like you said, Chris. It hasn't gotten there yet, but at some point, maybe there's some hope with this newer generation that will happen. And Oprah, and Oprah and Obama are from that older generation that was not willing to accept homosexuality. So, but again, like I said, hopefully they do see it. Hopefully other generations will be able to bring it out in the open and accept it more. Who knows?
I think it's important to note, especially what Jim's talking about when it comes to the ages, the generations, because by and large, I think just kind of throwing some numbers here, and the old percentages was more like 5% LGBT, but in millennials, this is something I had recently run across, is 14% of African American and 13% of Caucasian American. So you actually have a higher percentage there.
You mean identify as LGBTQ?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Openly. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's millennials as far as generationally, but it shows the stark difference between how it was portrayed, accepted, or acknowledged in the past compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see that I still go to the, I know last time we discussed a lot about punk rock stuff, but I still go to punk rock stuff these days. And totally different environment from this book, but I can see there's a whole kind of wider acceptance of perceptions of gender norms have completely switched, and it's actually really quite refreshing, I think, because I actually really like going to a lot of these current shows and seeing some of these bands where I'm not really sure how some of these folks identify, but everyone's accepting of each other. So hopefully, that will change. But I want to go back to the discrimination within the gay community in general itself.
Yes.
That's a whole other ball of wax, I think, because I think I believe that part of this discrimination comes out of the prevalence of AIDS, especially within the African American community. And I'm thinking that, especially in Washington D.C., where the AIDS rate for African Americans is a lot higher than those for white gay people here in D.C. And so, I'm wondering if part of it is due to that. And then also, if, a lot of these gay dating apps, you see stuff like, no blacks, or other things like no fatties, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like an issue there that's really under the radar, man, that I don't know how many people are really aware of that.
I'm sorry to be numbers guy today, but you actually bringing it up the HIV thing. This staggered me whenever I saw this. I don't know about DC, but in Atlanta, from what I gather here, it's noting that LGBT is hit hardest by HIV in that specific area, and 60% of LGBT Black males in Atlanta have a chance of being HIV positive before 30.
Yeah, it's crazy. And,
oh my God.
And I think that's, the work that Terrence does with his Impulse group, which also is in Atlanta and I think Los Angeles and New York as well. And maybe some other cities. That's what they're trying to raise awareness about, practicing safe sex, condoms, that sort of thing.
And this is that Impulse group you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to grab some links and share some information about that organization around. Kind of coming back, though, when you were talking about the churches and so forth, looking at the images, can you describe that particular experience, not just the parties, but how it goes when you're in the church?
Oh, well, in the church, I mean, it's basically, so this church in particular follows in that kind of brimstone and hell and damnation style.
Sounds like churches I've been to.
and it's quite, it's very energetic, man. And it's a lot of fun. You have they got a great choir going, and then occasionally like people will be inspired to like either speak in tongues or
get the
Holy Spirit.
Get the Holy Ghost in them there.
Yeah, exactly. They cover them up with the white sheet while they're on the ground. There's several photos in the book of this sort of thing. And it looks, I mean, if you don't know that, they've been, visited by the Holy Ghost or what have you, you think something terrible has happened. Just if you look at the image out of context. But really, it's really kind of a beautiful thing. And it's a lot. It's entertaining. People dance, sing, talk throughout the service. And the other nice thing too is Reverend Aaron Wade Jones would have guest speakers come in, and one of the speakers, this guy Jeffrey McCune, who's a professor at Washington University in St. Louis, professor of gender studies. We've asked him to write the foreword for the book, because not only is he an expert in this field and can speak to it well better than I can, he can he's also a member of the church, and so it's he can really speak to it from a personal perspective. So I'm hoping I'm hoping it comes out not too academic, pretty accessible. But I think it'll really lend a level of authenticity to this,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? I want to touch on something. Your quest to find a suitable publisher for this book.
Sure.
Yeah. Just talk about that. It took you a while to get this to a publisher, right?
Yeah. So I shopped it around to folks that I'm not going to name names here, but to various publishers that I thought would be interested, and so. you either had, there's some in Europe that just kind of wanted to make it kind of crazy as possible, like juxtaposing the church scenes with these crazy party scenes and stuff without as much trying to follow a narrative about it as more, kind of a shock value thing.
Gotcha.
And so I wasn't really kind of interested in that approach. And then, of course, there's this problem that's pervasive in photo book world where people are like, yeah, we'll publish it, but you have to come up with all the money and do a Kickstarter and all of that, which is pretty much the way things go. And I wasn't interested in doing that either. And there are several folks, that were interested in putting out the work. And then they'd be like, 2 weeks later after doing a bunch of work, they'd be like, okay, so yeah, we need to have you raise $70,000 or something. And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, not only did I work on this stuff and put all this stuff together, it's like, now I want to be a photographer. I don't want to be a fundraiser. So I was like, that's your job, as a publisher, right? I look at it in like the music world. And you have, the record label will pay for a lot of the times they'll pay for the recording, but always they pay for the manufacturing of the vinyl or the CD or whatever, or the digital content that needs to go out. I mean, that's their job, but that's not how it works in photo book world, where it's like, they want, the photographer to raise the money, which is just kind of or put up the money, which I think it's kind of weird. I mean, if the photo book world can't afford to maintain a roster of artists or whatever, that photographers that do well, and have to resort to this kind of like, oh, you give me money, I'll put you on here because we think you're okay. There's less incentive for these photo book publishers to market you because it's already been paid for. They don't have to earn any money back. There's really no risk on their side. What they're doing is just kind of building a catalog, and if something hits and does well, then that's great. It's kind of like, but it's sort of like a back-assward way. Like, the major labels used to be like, oh, we'll give all these bands $100,000 to record their album, with hopefully, one of them will become $1 million seller and pay for the rest. Yeah, in this case, they're saying, oh, you can all pay us money, and then we hope one of you become a success so we can take all your money.
It's kind of transitioned to a similar scenario with politics. It's like you get elected, and instead of actually doing anything, you spend the time just trying to make more money to do it again. So photographers find themselves in a place where instead of shooting and working on a project, you're worrying too damn much about trying to get the money to get that project out there, that the project itself suffers over and over and over.
You're taking all the risk, basically.
Yeah,
completely.
Yeah.
So, photo evidence has been, nice enough to figure out another way to do this sort of thing. So that's cool, because it's definitely, no one makes money on photo books. So I'm not worried about the money at all. It's just like, I don't want to be out there hustling for money. That's not, I'd rather be out there doing this, what I'm doing right now with you guys, talking about it and giving presentations or what have you. I'll be presenting on this at the Miami Street Photography Festival coming up on Friday, December. I forget the exact date. Hold on. Friday, December 7th at 11:30 at the History Miami Museum during the Miami Street Photography Festival, which is also during Art Basel Week in Miami, which is great. So doing those kinds of things, or doing interviews or what have you, I feel like my energy is better spent there than trying to figure out how to run a Kickstarter campaign or something.
I agree.
No shit. Yeah. And coming from experience, trying to control and organize and manage a Kickstarter campaign is a pain in the ass. And you just become a salesman. And I felt like in the process, I was more or less alienating the people that I actually wanted the project to go out to. Because you find yourself constantly asking for money. And by the time the project comes out, you're not known as the guy that actually made the project. You're that person that just kept begging for money.
Yeah.
And that's not a good position to be in, And, my first book, I was fortunate that the publisher totally paid and did it, did all that stuff, which was great.
Had you ever worked with photo evidence before?
No, I haven't, but I've been familiar with their work. So this woman, Michelle Frankfurter, did a book about migrants from Mexico. It's actually basically the folks that start at the bottom of Mexico and jump on trains and travel. I guess a little faster than taking the caravan route. But anyway, she documented, spent many years documenting that, and that's one of the books that Photo Evidence published. And they also published, and I don't remember the name of it, but it is an amazing book. Hold on,
Take your time.
I have it right here. It's called 46750 by Joao Pena, Joao Pena.
460.
And it's basically about the kind of the drug wars in Brazil, and it's intense.
Oh,
so yeah,
that'd be a hell of a subject.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's you can. No one listening to this can see this stuff, but
that's all right. That's what links are for, and we'll definitely add into the show notes. If you go to our website here for this show, there'll be a link for this book if you want to check it out.
Yeah. So this is a great book that they also are now publishing the World Press Photo Book Award. Book.
Did you find when working with Photo Evidence you had the freedom that you were seeking?
Yeah, so far so good. The really cool thing is that they were like, well, we need a photo book editor for this, and they said this woman Regina Montfort, and it turns out she was the one that edited Richard Sandler's The Eyes of the City book, which is my favorite street photography book that I've seen in like recent years. I mean, it's up there with any Leningrad book or any Lee Friedlander book, anything like that, man. It is amazing. It's like 20 years of street photography in New York City, man. And it's really amazing. That's on Powerhouse Books. But she edited that book. And I think that book is so good because she really did an amazing job editing the photos. So,
and the title is Eyes of the City.
Yeah, The Eyes of the City. We actually had Richard Sandler actually presented at Miami Street Photography Festival last year, and everybody loved it, and it was great.
All right, folks, definitely take note of this. And again, another show notes thing. Now, the book itself is scheduled for release spring 2019.
Yeah, we still have some editing to do.
All right. And
in fact, I have to go back into my archives, and Regina wants to see every photo that I took.
Contact sheets.
Oh,
that's going to be brutal.
It's especially brutal because I don't import every photo I take. I leave them on the I save every SD card I've shot. Right. But my filing for these SD cards is not that great. So
oh, my God.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, no.
So I have 1,000 plus keepers from this. Right. But
and what people aren't seeing is you doing the bunny ears.
There's probably 10,000 more photos.
Would it be a bad move if you just sent her a box of all of your SD cards and said, have fun?
I want to hire an intern to just go through them and catalog all the SD cards because
There you go.
Yeah. So, I use SD cards are like my negatives, right? So.
Right.
Well, let's do this. Where can people go and pre-order your book?
If they go to photoevidence.com and then you can click on the books section there. It's the first book that'll pop up.
And that's Photo Evidence with an F.
Yeah, FOTO evidence.com.
Excellent. Yeah. So to all of our listeners out there, if this is something that you're interested in picking up, which we highly, highly recommend, we wouldn't do an entire show dedicated to it otherwise. Definitely go and check out this link and pick it up. And for spring 2019, you'll have a nice shiny wrapped book sitting on your front porch, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. That's right. You might as well just go ahead and pre-order it now, right?
And I do want to say too as well, because I'm a big street photographer. While this is a documentary book, it is all shot from the perspective of a street photographer. So, I'm always kind of going for the juxtaposition, some humor, energy, all those sorts of things. All the stuff that I've learned by doing street photography basically now influences almost any kind of photography I do. So, there's like a lot of that in this book. It's like it's very influenced by street photography, if you will.
That is fantastic. Capturing human life, energetic and full of story.
Yeah, full of life and all its beauty and ugliness combined.
For better or for worse. Well, let me ask you this question: as far as for this project here, do you anticipate a continuance, or as far as how you work on your projects, do you plan on a part 2 to follow the lives, or maybe is that just something that will come naturally?
So, no, I think I would call this one done. One thing while I was shooting this, because I really was like, my only experience was with African American gay folks, was like, it was made me curious. Like, so what are white gay folks like? And so I started going to this thing called the Mid-Atlantic Leather Festival that happens here in D.C. in a hotel. And I've now been, I guess, 5 years now in a row. And this is a whole other world where this is one where, I've almost had my own personal Me Too moment here, because these guys are like way aggressive. I've been slammed against the wall and kissed. I've had I've had my privates grabbed, all kinds of stuff, which that did not happen once while I was shooting Faith. But there seems to be kind of this kind of macho aggressiveness within this community, man. But with that said, it's really kind of a freaky scene, and I've enjoyed shooting that. But it's very aggressive and very disarming if you're not prepared. Yeah.
It's the way you previously described it. It was like from the outside looking at it, kind of reminds me of a the Folsom Street Fair out here in San Francisco.
It's essentially like that, man. It's essentially like that.
Is that right?
Except in San Francisco, they just have it out on the street rather than indoors.
I would love to go check that out. I haven't yet. I heard they're trying to ban photography from that though.
There was a big hoopla about it this year, where they were trying to, I wouldn't really call it banning it, but they were definitely trying to suppress it. And then an entire debate came up. I don't think, Jim, they didn't really successfully stop anything, did they?
No, I don't think they did at all. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And I know that was kind of like coming up when it came to the Folsom Street Fair and potentially the How Weird Festival too, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. Yep. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. What's the How Weird Festival?
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really the title describes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wonder how much weirder can it get, and it gets weirder.
And it needs to be emphasized. It's how weird in San Francisco, which we just take it to a whole new level with these festivals.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
It's fun.
I got to go check that one out.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was a way to kind of gain like a little bit of perspective on the community that I was shooting, and just to see how, the larger, or I guess the leather community really.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and do this. I know we're kind of short for time. So, Jim, if you want to go ahead and give him round 2 of our usual question.
Well, why don't you do it? I'm saying
Do
because
I have to do
I'm
this again?
deferring to you. I'm deferring to you because my voice is cracking.
I'm gonna switch this one up specifically for the moment, and this is specifically for Chris. If you had an opportunity to shoot a project since the inception of the camera, what would you want to focus it on?
God, it would be my next project that I'm working on.
There we go.
Good
And which one is
answer.
that? It's one I'm currently working on. I don't want to say too much about it, but I will say this: it is more in the realm of fine art photography, and it's called "I'll Be Your Mirror." And it's inspired by, I guess I was listening to I was listening to WFMU out of New Jersey, which I listen to all the time, and I heard the Velvet Underground song called "I'll Be Your Mirror," and I was thinking about it. I was like, a lot of people say photography is sort of the mirror of the camera is the mirror of the photographer. It's not what they shoot. It's really more of a reflection of what the photographer does. So I decided to kind of turn that whole idea on its head. So
that's awesome. So you hear that,
interesting.
folks? We didn't get the specifics on it, but we did get him to talk about the title. So one up for Street PX today.
And it's still a work in progress, but it involves a prop, and it involves it's kind of what I've managed to do. I've never seen anyone do anything like this before, so I'm really kind of excited. That's why I don't want to describe what it is or show an image from it, because I think people want to steal it.
Oh, I gotcha. And suspense and patience is all part of the appreciation of it when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, man.
I'll stop us there. That way we don't cause you to accidentally tell us too much. So
that's it, man. My lips are sealed right now.
There we go. Well, Chris, where can people find out more information about you and see more of your work?
Oh, if you go to suspectdevice.net, that's kind of my blog, where you can just check. It's more like kind of a photo diary where I just post stuff that I'm doing. And then on Instagram, which is a whole other project that I've kind of pretty much feel that I've completed and want to do something with, and that's kind of like Party Lives of Millennials.
Right on.
All right.
And then obviously check out photoevidence.com and click on the books link. Go and take a look and get your copy, or at least order your pre-order. Faith.
So I believe there's going to be 500 in the first pressing. And if you pre-order it, you get a signed copy. My last book that I did sold out within 24 hours, but we only did 100 copies. Then we repressed that with 250 copies, and that took 2 weeks to sell out. So I would recommend acting fast.
Yes. Yeah. The pre-order will definitely get your name on the list. So definitely do that. All right, cool. And Jim, where can we find out more information about you?
As always, JimWatkinsPhoto.com, and all my links to the social media platforms that I use are on there.
Excellent. And you can find out more information about me at recasper.com. But more importantly, go and take a look at streetpx.com, where you'll find links to all of our previous episodes, new news, all of the links and show notes that we provide that go hand in hand with our shows here. And if you enjoy what we're doing, go and take a look at either our online shop, where you can buy wonderful T-shirts. Actually, right now is a great time for that photographer in your life. You want to get a holiday gift. What?
You got T-shirts?
We do. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We got probably 35 designs. It's mostly, we got about 3 or 4 of them that are Street PX branding, but the other 24 are different cameras, from Leicas to Minolta, old school film cameras, things like that. Cool designs.
Wow. Well, where do you? Oh, under merchandise. Here we go.
Yeah,
yes,
there it is.
Oh, look at that.
And I'm adding
man.
stuff all the time. Yep. And we also do requests. So if we have a camera, if there's not a camera there that you want, let me know and I'll make it.
Cool. And what's a premium T-shirt? Are these like American? What's that? What brand are you printing these on?
Oh,
Those are currently under Spreadshirt, but I believe we're going to be shifting over to Threadless soon. So
that's a good
brand.
We got it.
We have a store on both of them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I found the Threadless shirts to be their premium ones to be a little bit more comfortable and better fit. So that's kind of where we're looking.
What's the best seller, man?
I've actually sold probably. Put me on the spot. Now I'm wondering. I think one of the Nikon cameras we've sold probably the most of. It's either that one or the little Olympus one we sold the hell a lot of. Olympus Epic.
That's cool.
That little cult classic.
Yeah. Do you have the Rico?
Rico's in there. GR. Yep. I got I think the Leica M4 and the M2. I think the one that took me the longest was there's a Graflex in there, and that thing took me a long time to design.
Wow,
it's very in depth.
Well, dude,
the next one I want to do.
This is awesome, man. I had no idea this is on here. Nice. Wow, you got it all. You got aprons. Wow.
The man is a genius.
Got some dog bandanas in there.
You do. You have any thong underwear, man? What's next here?
No thong underwear yet. That might be for 2019.
Oh, please no.
Do you have a muscle tee? I don't see those either.
There we go.
Okay. All right.
Printed on some whitey tighties.
Yeah.
I think we're losing Jim.
The jokes are formed. You can imagine what's going through my mind. How big is that lens on that thing? Yeah. Let's close this.
Yeah, we're losing everybody now. We got to give a big thank you to everybody listening, and of course, a big thank you to Chris for coming on our show, man. Thank you so much.
And you guys deserve a big thank you too, as well, for being open to talking about this book and this project, and having me on again. I really appreciate it. So it's really killer, man.
Chris, that's definitely our pleasure, man.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners out there, if you're photographers with a great project that you're working on, either recently finished or upcoming or even in the past, we are always looking for great storytellers and great stories. So reach out to us. You can contact us at contact@streetpx.com. Shoot us an email and we'll chat with you. So cool. All right, folks, we will let you go, and hopefully we'll be back talking at you sooner than later. Cheers.
Take it easy, guys.
Later.